something that I think is super important when it comes to creating love in your life and inspiring a great love. I really feel like one of the things that's super important that I talk about is focusing on you and your life and your passions and your desires and the things that really light you up in your life. Because a lot of times I think that, when we're seeking love and partnership, we have this idea that when I have this partner or when I have this love, then everything's going to be great. And the truth is, it's so important to be cultivating your own luscious life and your own luscious love. And a part of that is tapping into, well, what are the things that bring me joy, that light me up? And for me, one of those things has always been music. And I think it's so important to find out, what are those things that I love to do that when I spend time on them, they just light me up, so that when you're coming to the table in dating, relating, and cultivating a love life, that you're not expecting, your partner to bring all that to you, but you're already bringing it. So that's what's done for me in my life. And that's part of what music has brought to me. So just to open with that, I think it's a good thing for people to think about.
Yeah, that's a beautiful way to open, Cami, and it really resonates. One of the things that I've noticed in doing my Man Panel series, which is another series of interviews that I do where I interview just men, is that so many of the men have shared that seeing a woman that has that lit from within kind of energy is something that really attracts a man to a woman. So if she's pursuing her passions, like you said, or the things that bring her joy, and she's in that place in her life where she's living a great life and is enjoying her life, pursuing her passions, and has that lit from within energy, that's one of the things that draws in the right man. And it makes sense, because if you think about the idea that men want to know that they can make a woman happy, they want to know they can succeed with her. If she's already happy, he's already halfway there, right? His job is a lot easier.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, it's a lot of pressure for someone to feel like, oh, I'm completely responsible for your happiness. Wow. That's a lot of pressure. And of course, I think that you want to partner with someone who has the capacity, who has the interest to want to meet your needs, to hear, okay, well, what are your needs? And we know that no human being can possibly ever fulfill and meet all of our needs.
Right.
But to be with someone who genuinely is interested in them and in knowing what they are, and when he can, to be able to provide those things, whatever it is, the need for connection or the need for shared laughter or shared experiences or support or help in some way. But I think you're so right to know that, oh, you're not just looking to me to fulfill all of your needs. That's a lot for anyone to have to do. So I think what you're saying is super important, coming to the table knowing, oh, this woman is so lit up and fulfilled already in her whole life, and mentally, emotionally, physically, and spiritually. She knows who she is. She knows what she needs. There's a level of, I think, respect that comes from that, because the woman really knows who it is she is and how she's walking through life and what's important to her. That automatically starts to create boundaries in the relationship, which are super attractive, to know that you know what is an authentic yes in your life, and you have standards, you have things that you need, requirements, and starting with how you're treating yourself. What are the requirements and how you want to feel within, having a sense of a foundation of safety within, going into the dating life from there, because you're so tapped in to those needs, those desires, to creating that sense of safety within, because you're so in touch with your own feelings and your own needs. You're able to access them, to express them, and you're not coming to relationship feeling like someone else needs to create that sense of safety for you. So there's so many aspects of this that are so important, but I'm sure we'll get more into this as we go on.
Yeah, well, I just loved what you just said there, because I think that you said access them, meaning your own needs, in order to express them. And I that really caught my attention when you said that, Cami, because one of the things I've discovered in doing this work now for a period of time is oftentimes women think they know what they want or what they need, but they're not as deeply connected with that as would bless them, would help them to be able to be. And so if they're not as connected with that, if they're not as clear about that, it's harder for them to ask for what they want or to express what they want or to get what they want, because there's not that clarity, not deep enough clarity on what it is they really want or what it is they really need. And then taking that a step further, if they're not really clear on those things, it is harder to have those clear standards and boundaries. Those become more malleable, and a woman can be perceived or come across as being a little bit wishy-washy and not knowing who she is. And at the end of the day, we all want to be loved for who we really are, but we have to understand a little bit more about ourselves and who we really are. So tapping into this is so essential. And that really caught my attention, the way you phrased that, because I think that is just such a huge piece.
Yes. Well, and I think also when that's not happening, when you don't have that certainty and that clarity about your own needs, that then it becomes really easy in relationship to kind of go along with the program, so to speak, and to just, I think you start to not be as connected to your own intuition and your own, your own internal yes, your own internal no. And there might be things happening in the relationship that are not in alignment for you. But because you're not deeply in touch with your feelings and needs, you just sort of like, well, okay, you kind of talk yourself out of your own knowing. Well, okay, maybe this is okay. All right, well, maybe I'll go along with this. And over time, you just talk yourself into this relationship that you look back on later and feel like, well, wait a minute, how did I get here? It's because all along the way, you were sort of disowning, your own certainty, your own feelings, your own needs. And that's why I think that one of the most important things to think about before creating love, before dating and everything else, is to really get certainty and to get clarity about your own vision for love. What does that look like? There are so many wonderful people, I believe, out there. And if you're going out and dating, I really believe there's an abundance of possibilities for wonderful people out there that you could be meeting. But I think it's really important to figure out for you, what is it that you're seeking in a partnership? What is the form of the relationship? Are you wanting to have a boyfriend, girlfriend kind of long-term relationship? Are you seeking a partnership where you would live together? Are you seeking a partnership where you would want marriage? Do you want children? Some people have had that already in their lives, and they're not seeking that now. But they want a companion. They're okay to live separately. I mean, it doesn't matter. There's no right or wrong. But for you, what is it that you're seeking? And then when you think about the qualities in the partner, what are those qualities? I call them kingly qualities. What are those qualities that would really support you in having your needs met in partnership? And then on the flip side, who are you? And I call them the queenly qualities. What are you bringing to this partnership that would support and inspire this great love. And then once you have a lot of certainty about what those things are, then this can kind of be your barometer, your roadmap, your GPS to love, so that you know, am I on track? Am I off track? Because you can meet somebody who's wonderful, but then if you really go back to your certainty and your clarity about those queenly qualities, those kingly qualities, your vision for love, you meet a wonderful person, you're really certain you want marriage and children, let's say. This is a great person, a lot of wonderful qualities, but he's very certain that's not what he sees for his life vision. Well, then you know, it doesn't make sense for me to invest any more of my time, my energy, my heart here. Although this is a great person, I wish him well and I wish him happiness, but I don't think it makes sense for me to continue here. And I think it's easy for women to not do that when they haven't gotten this real certainty with themselves and could maybe say, well, you know, maybe if I just hang out here, you know, a little bit, it'll all work out in the end. So I think that certainty is super important. And I also think that a beautiful part of going, and I work with people and we'll do a whole visioning around this, in doing this visioning process to really figure out and really embrace and really say yes to what it is that you're deeply desiring. A beautiful part of this is that you get this kind of a look into your future self, and you get to see, well, who is it? Who am I inside of this partnership? And a lot of times women will see aspects of themselves that they realize they need to begin living now in the present in order to be able to have that. Like, for example, I can think of some things that have come up with clients. And one of them was that a client said, wow, I really see that I'm much more calm in this future. I have much more spaciousness in my life. And I'm laughing more. And so you can kind of see, like, well, what are the things that I would want to be doing now in order to be able to do that? So she realized, I need to create that spaciousness. I need to have that groundedness and that calm sense within. And I want to be just enjoying my life more and laughing more. So that's a really fun part of the visioning process too, is to kind of see maybe some things that you can start to implement now that would support having that vision come to fruition.
Yeah. And I take my clients through a similar process. So this really resonates with me, and it's the envisioning part is so key, and then actually feeling it, like feeling inside what it would be like to receive that kind of relationship, that kind of love. Because I think for many women, we're so strong at being givers. You know, those muscles are really strong. Mm-hmm. Our receiving muscles are not always as strong. And so there needs to be that expansion from within, which is kind of the feeling part of it, like feeling into it. And you gave the example of your client saying, I laugh more, you know, so feeling that joy, feeling that happiness or that lightness of energy that allows her to laugh more as she's feeling into imagining what that vision is and what it might be like to be there. So that was really beautifully said. I want to just step back for 1 second though and ask you one other question. Sure. I have my ideas on this, but I would love to hear what you have to say. Why do you think it is that women so often become a bit disconnected from their wants and needs? Why does that happen sometimes to us as women? Because we've talked about how important it is to be able to source those things in order to ask for what we want or to receive what we really want or need. Mm-hmm. Why is it that so often women become a bit disconnected from that?
You know, Michelle, I think a lot of it has to do with how we are in society, you know, that we are so inside of the masculine in society. And so, you know, we have so many amazing possibilities available to us now in our lives. We can do and be and have anything that we want, but it's, sourced from this masculine place. We're driving, we're building, we're making it happen. And that's wonderful to see how that people have so much opportunity. But I think what happens is, because we're doing the driving and the building and the moving forward and all of that, that we're less in touch with our emotional side, our receptive side, our feeling side, our, being in the body. We're very much, up here in the masculine. And the feminine it's in our bodies. It's in that feeling space. And we aren't rewarded as much for that, in our culture. And I think that is one of the reasons, and so in order to be doing the driving and the moving and making everything happen and being ambitious and having the goals come to fruition, I think there has to be a certain pushing down of those feelings and of those needs and of those desires. So that is a process of starting to get reconnected to those parts of the self. And the beautiful thing about doing that is that when we start to get more in touch with the feminine aspects of ourselves, there can be this perception that that's kind of a weakness. And it's absolutely not true, because the feminine, strengthening of the feminine, actually can support the masculine and have things happen in an even better way when it's, the yin and the yang. Mm-hmm. And so when we're masculine heavy, I think that's when we start to get out of touch and disconnected from ourselves, So it's making the time and the space to take the time to literally go within and ask yourself, what are you feeling? What are you needing? How many of us do that on a daily basis? Mm-hmm. Between getting up and packing lunches or going off to your job, and you have meeting after meeting after meeting, and then you're going to the gym and then doing this and that. And a lot of people think, I don't have time for that. But it literally is something that you need to do, just like brushing your teeth or anything else that you do every day. Go within and just tune in and ask yourself, what are you feeling? What are you needing? What am I feeling? Listen. Start that listening process. Start to reacquaint yourself with yourself. There are different things happening in there that want to be heard, that want to be seen, that want to be listened to. And sometimes this can be even a tender process, because sometimes, there can be these experiences that happen through the dating process, triggers that happen, disappointments, frustrations. And you can find that there might even be these kind of pervasive things that happen over and over, or these pervasive feelings that come up over and over. And when you start to get reconnected to yourself in that way and start to listen and start to tune in, you can start to find and name, well, why do I keep having this same experience over and over? What is that about? What's happening? And we can start to name beliefs that are underneath, false beliefs that you're walking around life with. You're wearing glasses. It's as if you put these glasses on and you're seeing your life and your possibilities for love through these lenses. And let's say the more that you start to tune into yourself, and the more you're connected to that nurturing side, that emotional side, the receptive side, the intuitive side, you realize, wow, I'm seeing life through, life doesn't want me to have love, or men never choose me, or I'm not worthy. Starting to name that and realizing how you have shown up in your life, and as it relates to love and your possibilities for love from these beliefs, that have been outside your conscious awareness because you've been so much in that masculine and the moving and the driving. This becomes a very tender but very empowering process to realize, wow, no wonder my dating relationships have been going this way. If I'm choosing partners through an I'm not worthy or men never choose me, wow, there could be emotion down there that comes up that you haven't had the space to see and to embrace. And so we want to turn towards all of that. And it's in service to expanding into honoring all of who you are, the fullness of who you are, and to making these things conscious, to name them, to respect them, and to start to show up in new ways about what really is true about who you are, your worthiness, your value. That the truth is that life is supporting you to have love, that love and partnership is abundant in this world, and that there are partners and potential partners who would be so grateful to have you in their lives, who would weep with joy because you exist, and that it's possible to have and to meet those kinds of partners the more that you tune in to those feminine aspects and to really name your own inner experience. So that's a long answer, but I hope that makes sense.
Yeah, and it's an important answer, and I think it is really a key piece. And I work with a lot of women who are maybe a little older, 50s, 60s. I work with women of all ages, but I tend to attract a lot of women that are a little bit older. And one of the things I've also noticed, Cami, that goes alongside with what you're talking about is some of the women in this age category, of which I am one, is that we were culturalized to kind of suppress a lot of our needs as well. Like, for example, my mother married in the early 60s, so she wasn't quite the housewife of the 50s, but she was very, very self-sacrificing in terms of her own wants and needs throughout her whole life. And she gave so much, and in many ways that was so beautiful. And yet, I feel like she went through a lot of her life feeling quite depleted, exhausted,
yes,
drained. And so, but that was my primary role model of how a woman showed up in the world. And I don't think that I'm alone in that. I think so many of us were culturalized that way, where women were all about being self-sacrificing, what they could give, what they could do for others, and sometimes at the expense of their own wants and needs, to the point that it depleted them. Now, I will say that I do believe one of our beautiful divine feminine gifts is our ability to give and to love and to care for and to nurture, and all of those things are so important. But it's kind of like, if our inner vessel is completely empty from doing that, and we're not getting anything back, we're not satisfying our own wants and needs, we're going to eventually become depleted. So I think there's that cultural thing as well. And this comes back to what we were talking about earlier. A part of this is really being connected with the body, with that internal guide, whether we call it the feminine intuition, or whether we call it, a gut feeling, or whether we call it just recognizing when the body is saying, here's what I need, when we're getting those messages internally and paying attention to those rather than suppressing them. So I just think this is all just a really big piece for so many women, because it does create, if we're not connected with that, it does create kind of that fluidity where we don't really quite know who we are, and we can be kind of swept away when it comes to love, or as you called it, we kind of go with the program. And then we find ourselves somewhere going, well, wait, this wasn't what I wanted at all. How did I end up here?
Yes. Well, and what you're talking about, I think, is, you've probably heard this. There's this idea that, I can't be selfish. I can't do that because that will be being selfish. And I think that there is a healthy level of selfishness that is so necessary. And I think that if we are not turning, so there's that saying that we've all heard, that put the oxygen mask on yourself first.
Mm-hmm.
It's that kind of idea about how you put your first attention on yourself, because if you don't do that, you won't really be able to be there and be fully present for another in relationship. You will end up, as you just said, being exhausted, depleted, and all of that. And it's a healthy level of selfishness. We're not talking about narcissism here. We're talking about, no, this is necessary. It's a requirement, that mental, emotional, physical, and spiritual fulfillment, that is healthy. It's not selfish. But that's, I think, another message that women have gotten, is that, oh no, I need to be, it always needs to be about the other. And I'm not even a part of the equation here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you're so right. That's definitely a part of the way some of us have been culturalized. And I just want to say something here, Cami, because I know this has become a bit of a theme from our conversation here. If you're a woman out there and you feel like you've spent a lot of time or are functioning in a way where you feel like you're operating more in the masculine, and this is resonating with you, first of all, I think both Cami and I would like to say, have some compassion for yourself, because many women do this out of need, that's the way they've been socialized, or they do it out of necessity. They've had to operate. They have in the masculine, where they're very goal oriented and focused on bringing in an income or making things happen, because they haven't really had any alternative to that. So we understand that. So we want you to have some compassion. And this is not a time to beat yourself up if you feel like
absolutely
you've not shown up that way in relationships. But creating awareness around this can perhaps offer some ideas in terms of looking at that balance, because we all have masculine and feminine. And we all have those energies, and in certain aspects of our lives, one or the other works well. But for most women, if you're functioning mainly dominantly in the masculine for too long, it can have some adverse effects to your health, to your energy, and to your love life, right?
Yes.
Yeah, so that's just kind of shown up as a theme. And I just wanted to mention that, because our intention here, of course, is to give people hope, right?
Absolutely.
But we don't want them to feel bad if they're feeling like that's how they've been operating or showing up.
Yeah. And again, it's about the balance. So I'm sure if that is true, that if someone is hearing this and feeling like, oh yeah, I've been so masculine focused, and I'm sure there are wonderful things that have been created as a result, and that's wonderful. There's so many gifts from that. But we're just talking about, as I said, that yin and the yang, the balance, and what would start to become possible if you allowed the feminine to be enhanced more in your life, to just add more vibrancy to your life, and to have a sense of feeling even more full. So yeah, definitely no blame or shame. There are so many gifts that come from both aspects, but it's just about the balance.
Yeah. Well, I really appreciate that you're willing to dance with me, Cami. I know I've kind of totally gone off script here today.
It's absolutely great.
But I love to have these conversations and allow them to kind of organically go in the direction that they go, because I think that's kind of what's meant to come forward. I do want to ask you, though, about the sensuality and the sexuality for women. And
Sure.
it ties in, because if a woman is, again, not able to feel, or she's not able to be in touch with her needs, her sensual needs, her sexual needs, those are likely to be suppressed as well, which again can make a woman feel less than, it can make her feel less attractive, it can make her feel less satisfied, less able to enjoy life. So I'd love for you to speak about that for a minute or two, and just share a little bit of your thoughts on this, because I know this is an area that you focus on in your work as well as others.
Sure. Well, first of all, one of the things, that I think comes up through the dating process is an idea of chemistry, which, ties into sexuality and sensuality. And so one thing I want to say is you may want to consider to start having a different relationship with this idea of chemistry. Because sometimes I think that the chemistry can be a recognition of something that we learned when we were very small in our family of origin. It can be related to the kind of attachment that we learned growing up that creates in our adult lives this idea of a chemistry, because the kind of connection that we're feeling, the kind of attachment that we're feeling from the other person is bringing up those familiar feelings. It could be that you had a parent that was maybe less available than you would have liked. So you resonate with avoidance, and that comes up as chemistry. Mm-hmm. It could be that you had secure attachment with a parent, so you resonate with that. It could be that you had a kind of a parent where you maybe sometimes was close, sometimes wasn't. It was confusing. So you have this disorganized attachment. And so someone who's coming and going all the time, that resonates. I just want to mention that briefly because a lot of people, I think, can choose partnership from this idea of chemistry. And so in choosing a partner, watch when you get that red hot chemistry feeling. And before you dive in and start to become sexual with someone, really listen, look, observe. Is this someone who's really available for me? Are they consistent? Do they make me feel, am I seen and heard and valued? Is this person doing what they say they're going to do? Can I count on them? Really watch and observe before you become sexual, because what happens with our sexuality is we jump in, become sexual with someone, the oxytocin starts to create this bond, and the next thing you know, you're in this relationship. Sometimes that red hot chemistry can be an indicator that this may not be the best partner for you. And I'm not saying, when I say that, by the way, I'm not saying choose someone where you have no chemistry.
Right.
What I'm saying is just watch it, because it could be that you meet someone and maybe, you feel like a level 5 or 6 chemistry, and you would rule the person out because you would think, oh, well, that's not enough chemistry for me. I really need a 10 or 11. That 5 or 6 chemistry, maybe this person does offer that more secure connection, and maybe it will become stronger over time. And this might be someone to consider where in the past you might have said a no. So I just kind of wanted to start off with that idea.
Mm-hmm. It's so important because chemistry does not necessarily equal compatibility. And so many of us have that as like the holy grail. And it gets a little bit out of balance, and we can be too driven by that and and it can cause us to miss other factors that might be more important in the long run.
Yes.
But we acknowledge it's a lot of fun, right? The chemistry is a lot of fun. And
absolutely.
We want you to have chemistry.
Absolutely.
Just keeping it in balance.
Yes. And then to enhance this even more, so sensuality, sexuality, going into dating and relationships, having an empowered relationship with your own body, with your own sensuality, honoring it, honoring your sexuality. I think it's super important to really not feel like you are being measured by any person's idea or societal idea of what it means to be beautiful, of what it means to have the right body or the right body type, or I need to look like this or I need to look like that. A really important part of this whole conversation that we're talking about is stepping into an empowered relationship with yourself, your body, your essence, Savoring your sensuality and honoring your sexuality is to honor your body and reclaim it for yourself. So you decide to feel beautiful and comfortable in your own skin. You decide that you're enough just the way that you are. And a part of reclaiming your body for yourself is that when you feel good about yourself and who you are, you become more radiant and attractive in the process. And we've talked about this, throughout the conversation, showing up as a woman who just loves herself so fully and completely. That gives you more freedom, more confidence, and more pleasure when you do decide to become sexual with someone. And so some ideas about how you would do this. How do you reclaim your body for yourself? This also ties into the feminine, what we've been talking about. So some things to think about. Do things that help your body feel energized and alive, whatever that is for you. Maybe it's movement, maybe it's yoga or dance or hikes in nature, whatever that is for you. It could be things like what you put into your body. Eating foods that help you feel healthy and nutritious. I was talking with someone yesterday and we were talking about that. And she was saying, wow, I remember, when I was in college and I used to eat nothing but white flour all the time, because I didn't have a lot of money. And then realizing that I was exhausted and tired all of the time. So what you're putting into your body, giving yourself that energy, allowing yourself to feel your body as you move through the world, being in touch with how you feel as you walk through the world, allowing yourself to take sensual breaths, figuring out how to even touch yourself in ways, maybe in the morning you put cream on your body, you get ready, you brush your teeth, you put on cream, and maybe, you're just like, maybe when you do that in the morning, you just take a moment and you just literally feel your own fingertips on your skin. How often do we do that? Spending time in nature, wearing clothes that make you feel beautiful and sensual and vibrant, not blaming or shaming. So, not feeling, I can't date until I'm X weight, or if I were only thinner, I would have love, or he didn't call because I'm not this size or shape. Really loving yourself and your body first, because when you love yourself and you love your body, you love your life, and you're showing up as a woman who loves herself, and that will tap into and cross over into the area of sexuality, so you can allow yourself to be a fully sensual, sexual being and brush off these bad labels or good labels. Allow yourself to embrace your human sexuality and your sensuality, to enjoy that, to explore it in a way that feels safe and self-honoring and self-respecting and self-nurturing. And that will be different for everyone. And I know I'm just being mindful of time. I could talk about this all day, but those are just some beginnings of what I think are, really important about this area of the sensuality and the sexuality.
So, Cami, I want to give you a chance to just leave us with just a little parting thought or a last little idea, anything that you would like before we wrap up for today. And again, I want to thank you so much for your contribution and for dancing with me on this conversation. It's been a lot of fun.
Oh, thank you so much, Michelle. Yes. So one of the things that we talked about today is becoming a more radiant woman. And Maya Angelou has a wonderful quote on this, and she says, "Let nothing dim the light that shines from within." And I love that quote because I think that really speaks to becoming a radiant woman. You are literally letting your internal light shine, your internal beauty shine. So I'd love you to think about your mental, emotional, physical, and spiritual fulfillment in service to having your inner light shine and becoming a more radiant woman, and asking yourself on a daily basis, how is it that I'm focusing on my mental, emotional, physical, and spiritual fulfillment? And literally keep a journal and note when you're focusing on it, what did you do? And how are you feeling as a result? And start to notice when you are turning your attention towards yourself in that way, that you can literally see and feel that you are beginning to impact others and the world and yourself differently as you step more into becoming a radiant woman and embodying your own fulfillment. So that's what I'd like to leave people with today.
Thank you so much, Cami. That was beautifully said. And thank you again for joining me and for this wonderful conversation. And ladies, we want to thank all of you for joining us. Cami and I are both sending you lots of love and lots of encouragement. Bye-bye for now.
I love everybody. Bye-bye.